Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope the week is going well for you. My name is Mike Wright from Edge Home Finance, and I'm excited because I got a good friend of mine on today, Jeff Draeger from eXp Realty.
Yep.
And the TK Home team. We're going to talk about your own branding, of course, but TK has been on, and what an operation. So I applaud you for being the Realtor of the Week, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
That's solid. So let's dive in, man. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about you and how you got, what is your background? Do you live here all your life?
So I have a pretty unique background because my parents have been separated my entire life. So
Okay.
my dad is actually, he raised me on a third generation dairy farm in the middle of Wisconsin, out in the woods, no neighbors.
Right.
And my mom lived in Northeast and North Minneapolis my whole life. So I
wow.
always tell people I grew up on Highway 94 going back and forth between the two, but I definitely have seen both spectrums of, every walk of life, and I think that serves me well when I go out here meeting people for real estate.
So a dairy farmer, I've always heard
Yes.
those, you son of a guns are hard workers, I hear.
Yeah, I definitely learned the value of family and hard work and a
Yeah.
home, like what a home can mean to kids. So I definitely think about that a lot when I'm out there working, because my mom always lived in apartments and things like that, and I was always excited to go. I loved my time with my mom, but I was always excited to get back to the farm, to it, just feeling that home kind of feeling is important for a kid, I think.
Well, what I applaud both your parents about, because it sounds like you were close with both of them,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's an art in and of itself.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were close with each other, but
Well, no, of course not. Of
I
course
was
not.
definitely close with both of them.
Yeah, no, I think the most important thing, to be honest with you, and Jake knows this because he's got a child, is how are the kids doing?
Right.
Sometimes you got to put your own self-serving mindset to the side.
Yeah.
So I applaud you, man. Well, you've done well. They got to be
Yeah.
proud of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So from that background, how in the heck did you get into real estate?
Well, the first thing I did was I went to college for music. I love music, producing and engineering music. And then shortly after that, I had a few life obstacles after college. And then I met my wife, and producing or touring, things like that was not really in the cards. She had already had a daughter at the time who I kind of took over for her, became her dad when she was about 4. And then we've since had 3 more daughters. So we have 4 daughters.
Oh, Lord.
So I have a studio in my house. I love music, but I had to get out there and make some money. So I've went through the whole gauntlet of tough jobs, I'd say.
Yeah.
I've worked in pretty much every facet of construction growing up.
Yeah.
But I worked out in the Bering Sea. I worked in a welding factory. So I've done a lot of jobs where I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in real estate, and eventually just gave it a shot that I wanted to try to do something that challenged me a little bit more.
You bring up the Bering Sea.
Yeah.
So there's Instagram, or maybe it's even TikTok, that has this deal where they play this doo-doo, and they're showing these
Yeah.
ships, and that's a man's job.
Yeah, as we said, my dad is a farmer, so he wasn't somebody that always is like, oh, I love you, wasn't a lovey-dovey type of guy.
Right.
A great dad, great guy. That's not my point. But when I was in Seattle waiting to go out to sea, my dad called me and he's like, hey, I love you, buddy. And I'm like, oh man, I'm
Yeah,
in
right.
for it. This is, that it really sunk in. Like, this is a dangerous job. I only went on a few trips out there, but I was away from my family, but, only communication is a satellite phone, sleeping in bunk beds 16 hours a day, working 7 days a week. So you definitely learn that there's maybe some better job opportunities. It's not for everybody. Some people love it, because they have, when they're home, they're home.
Yeah.
But
Wow, it's an intense deal, and it built your character.
for sure.
But I think that's where you've now you ended up came from Chris Lindahl,
Yep.
and then now obviously with TK and the EXP clan.
Yep.
How was the transition?
It's been great. The one thing that I was really looking for is to just have a little bit closer knit, smaller team that I can learn from.
Yeah.
And that's been the awesome part about it. Has just been a little bit different culture, I guess.
The camaraderie, and I've had the honor of interviewing a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
AJ, TK, Tyler, go down the list,
Yeah.
right? Brady, etc. And it's a resounding same message,
Yep.
right? It's friendships, it's camaraderie, it's learning from one another.
Yep. And I've said it a lot of times since I've been here, but the word scripting always kind of scared me in the beginning. It's not something I wanted to practice, but when you're going on appointments or sales calls, sometimes there's objections that aren't really that big of an objection, but just learning how to have the conversation and ask questions has been a huge transformation for me, because early on I just wanted to skip that part.
Well,
to
but
be
I think
honest
that
with you.
it's that pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy one-to-one with you with a client or clients, but now you're in front of 40 of your comrades
Yep.
who are not critiquing in a negative sense, but wanting to help you.
Right.
I mean, Maya nailed it because she loves to work open houses, right? She obviously was interviewed last week, so you guys know this, that she had the objection of open houses where somebody came in and said, I love the house, I'm going to call my agent.
Yes.
And her response was, I'm going to call my agent, who's a great, great friend of mine, family friend.
Yeah.
And her response was amazing.
Yeah.
But I think that she said that she would not have learned that response if it wasn't for this scripting, which
Absolutely.
I think that those guys got a tremendous system.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned a little bit ago to you, I was able to win the script battle that we did, but the only reason I did that is because twice a week we do, whether it's on Zoom or you're in the office, we're doing scripting practice. A lot of times it's the same objections, but once you go over those enough times, then they're kind of in the back of your mind. And one of my first calls, actually, a Zillow call, my first calls on the TK team was one of those objections, and I just had it all playing in the back of my mind, and the phone call went so much better because practice.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, but I think that that's the key to all this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got what I think is a decent personality to dance.
Yeah.
But when you're rehearsed like we do with this, it helps tremendously because now at least you've got a guideline
Right.
to what to go to. How has that team been for you? I mean, obviously TK's a stud, I mean, the guy is just and all those guys, because it's all a camaraderie deal.
Yep.
You compete with one another, of course, potentially.
Yep.
But you're all wanting help with somebody. How's that been for you?
It's been awesome. The one thing I would say that's changed is kind of being more in tune with everybody on a weekly basis. So you're working in real estate every day. Not that I wasn't working in real estate every day before, but somebody that's kind of checking in, hey, what are you up to today? Or, because when you're working in real estate every day, you're definitely more in tune with what's going on in the market, and whatever objections or questions come up, you're able to kind of navigate through that because you're doing real estate stuff every day. That's what TK says is make sure you're doing real estate stuff all the time, because then it's just more and more in rhythm with what's going on.
You do a hell of a job. I learned about Jeff social media wise, which I learned about a lot of you guys social media wise, but your wins,
Yeah.
right? Your solds, your buyer happies, you're posting them. But then what I love is that you have your friends within your team saying, sweet, good job, keep doing your hard work.
Yeah.
What, I know we talk about TK a lot and his team, but what about your branding? I mean, do you take pride in what you're doing, or what are you trying to accomplish there?
That's a great question. It's something that's one of the things that I'm starting to try to tackle now that I'm in my first few years as an agent, and I'm starting to get really comfortable with what my brand would look like. But I'm definitely focusing more on just helping clients right now, and the branding thing I think is going to come. I don't want to force it. I definitely like doing the YouTube stuff, and I love helping families and just connecting with people more than a transactional side. So I'm trying to come up with something that's kind of clever as far as that.
It comes to you.
Yeah.
It comes to you. I've been in business for a lot of years.
Yep.
And my initials are MDW, Michael D. Wright. Well, all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, why don't you do mortgages done right?
There you go.
Logical enough. Use my last name. That's what the hell I do. It happens, right? And it's going to happen naturally for you.
Yeah.
Talk about your YouTube, because one of the coolest things that I've learned about Jeff is his ability to be in front of a camera.
Yeah.
right? And it's so comforting. But you're talk about the community shows you're doing.
Right. So I started off, as we were kind of discussing before, I started off wanting to, find another lead generating platform, essentially. But as we got into it, the night before we would tour a neighborhood, I would do the research on a neighborhood, and I really love to learn and just learn about. I realized I was learning about the history of that neighborhood, more than just the prices of the houses and stuff. Learning what's in those neighborhoods, and I realized that aside from lead generation, I'm still adding value to my clients by just being knowledgeable about what each community has to offer. So that it's kind of grew into this thing where I'm really passionate about doing the research and learning. Even just for myself, it's cool because living throughout the Twin Cities my whole life, there's stuff that I never knew about some of these neighborhoods that you learn when you start to research it.
Well, you've got people like AJ that's been around Minnetonka all his life.
Yeah.
So it's a second nature to the guy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people like that. You haven't had that opportunity because of where you've been in both states.
Yep.
So I applaud you, but it's critical for the clients because a lot of these people are dancing, whether they're reloads, going, where do I want to be?
Yeah.
I mean, what is downtown, whatever is, where is there some activities, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you and I have a tremendous friend. Okay.
Yep.
And it's not often on here I promote another loan officer, but this lady deserves to be promoted. Charmaine Tesmer is an amazing lady. She is extremely organized. She's got a heart of gold. And Jeff and her are great friends. And it was quite funny though, because I had posted, God, Jeff, great job on this thing. Well, within seconds, Charmaine's going, hey, yeah, he's good,
Yeah.
I respect that because that's what our friendships and partnerships are about.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about Charmaine and how good she's been for you.
Yeah, so if I can, like I said before, I'd like to start with just the backstory because it's pretty crazy. So I had Charmaine is part of a team that services the Chris Lindahl team that I was on, and so they do an accountability group once a week, different groups, but it just so happened that she was in my group, and I was actually using a different lender at the time.
Yeah,
and tragically, my younger cousin had taken his own life about a year ago. And it's important to the story because it was wild. So
yeah.
I had to tell the accountability group that I wasn't going to be there next week, that my cousin had passed away, and I shared the story of how it happened. And being that crazy of a story, it's something that people talk about. Well, I didn't know where Charmaine was from, but it turns out she's from Neenah, Wisconsin, which is where my cousin was from.
Oh boy.
And so I'm telling the group this, and she goes, "It's not so-and-so, is it?" She said his last name, and I was still thinking, there's no way she's talking about the same person that I'm talking about.
Right.
And then after the group, she said, yeah, she said his name, and I'm like, yeah, that's my cousin.
Ooh.
So it turns out she was actually, I think she's cousins with his dad, which he didn't have a close relationship with his dad, but my aunt had babysat her and her twin sister their whole lives.
Yeah.
And so it was wild. And like I said, I met her at work, had no
Right.
idea that we were connected that way. And so I had gone to the funeral and asked my aunt. She's like, yes, they known her since they were little. And it was just wild. And then, onto the working thing. So we did some transactions after that. And she's really on cue with the way that I try to treat clients. We've had a couple deals that were really tough. Charmaine actually drove to one of my client's brother's house. He was a co-signer that we were really having troubles with this guy. She drove to his brother's house to get some signatures. That deal actually fell through because the client just couldn't get stuff together. But
right.
She's called a creditor for another client. Like, she just goes above and beyond, and she treats people the way I want to treat my clients because it's also a representation of me when she's talking to my clients.
Yes.
And she's done an amazing job at that. And like I said, regardless if it's a smaller transaction, she treats them all the same. And so I really grew to love her for that.
Well, Charmaine, sorry. He's doing all his deals with me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just, all kidding aside, our industries need this, right? How do we partner with other people within the industry because it's so small?
Yeah.
And you'll know this with real estate is that when you're presenting offers, knowing your reputation is good
Yep.
and not being a dick and not being irrational, and it comes back to you. And that's why my friendship with Charmaine is a beautiful lady, and we appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely.
So back to you.
Yeah.
What has been some tips that you've learned from TK and even Chris
Yep.
that you've taken to heart and implemented?
Well, I guess one of them, I mean, on the real estate side of stuff you're asking?
Yeah.
Well, one of them is people aren't clicking on Zillow just for no reason. I mean, people do kind of click around on Zillow, but a lot of times there is some backstory there. They're really looking to make a move, but there might be a lot of obstacles. And so early on, I would kind of just say, okay, no worries, but just learning to ask more questions and get to the bottom of it. I just had a client actually recently that was thinking about waiting and passing up on this house, but then few more questions and talking with her husband, we're actually pending on that house now because they wanted it, but there's just sometimes just learning to ask more questions. And Chris was great about that as well, just asking questions,
I think that you nailed it. And that lesson in your new career is priceless, because so often we read a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Right? I'm drawing a blank on the rock star who has tats all over the face, country singer, etc. And I'm going, oh boy.
Post Malone, maybe?
Oh yeah. And it was all of a sudden I'm watching YouTubes of him.
Yep.
And what he believes in and his background and how he survived all this stuff.
Yep.
And I'm like going, God dang, So asking questions exposes people, but on the flip side, all you're wanting to do is to figure out how you can help them.
Yep, absolutely.
Are you a open house person? Are you a cold calling person? Are you a word of mouth person?
I'm starting to get more into the open houses now. This year I was supposed to do 3 this weekend, but I'm doing 2. That was another thing that I was kind of skipping out on before. We had lots of leads before, but I was still struggling to convert some of those, and I was kind of leaning on that as my only source of business. And so since I've switched over to the TK Homes team, that's another thing that he's really, drilled down in my head, is just learning to communicate with people regularly, your sphere, all those things that I was trying to avoid. But that's really, I think, where the longevity of real estate could come from, is learning how to systematically stay top of mind with people. So yeah, definitely open houses now to try to drum up some more personal business and just get in front of people. TK and Chris have both preached that, as phone calls are one thing, but if you can find a way to get in front of people, you're always going to be more successful that way, especially if you have hopefully a decent enough personality to.
You do. And I kind of read it though. Are you a bit of an introvert?
I'm not. When I first took the personality test, I'm a
DISC profile or something.
Yeah, it's like a thinking socializer. So I usually start out a little bit quieter, but once you get to know me, I'm probably more of one of the more talkative people.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Jake and I have this conversation all the time in regards to our industries almost mandate that we're out and about.
Yeah.
That you're smiling, that you're talking, you're shaking hands.
Yep.
But then at a certain point, I shut down and just go,
yeah.
I'm okay just being downtime and enjoying your wife and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
How do you keep balanced? I mean, are you in a mode where you're just, let's go 7/24 type deal, or what?
Kind of, because as I said, I have 4 daughters, and our youngest daughter, she's now in 1st grade. So my wife does hair, but for a long time she was a stay-at-home mom because we had young kids, and so fortunately my kids haven't had to go to daycare. They got to stay with their mom all the time. I used to have a painting business before I got into real estate.
Painting?
Yeah, painting business.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
and so that was weekends. It was a lot of work, and then I got into real estate, and now that I've switched brokerages, it's kind of in the middle of the winter. It's kind of still like, hey, we gotta put some things together here to keep the family fed and whatnot. So I do my best to balance it, but I definitely am still in a building mode where I feel like I got to put in some work for my family's sake.
What's your wife's name?
Amanda.
Amanda, props to you. 4 girls and then dealing with this guy,
Yeah.
You are a saint, my friend. But that in and of itself is such an amazing task too. Yeah, she cuts hair, tries to take care of the girls. Raising 4 girls, I got 2 and a son, and it ain't for the faint of heart.
No, and she's amazing. I couldn't be any more blessed. I mean, she's a mama bear, like 7 days a week. There's nothing else that she really thinks about or cares about than those kids. So I'm blessed.
I love it. And your industry, your business, is not easy either. It takes you away from a lot of the activities that, we all love to be at every dance, every, whatever the events are, sports, whatever.
Yeah.
Our businesses sometimes don't allow us to have that happen.
I have chaperoned at every one of my daughters, every opportunity I've had, so I can at least say that I've still, showed up. But as they say, it's very ironic. Everybody says about when you go on vacation, that's when you start getting calls. My first 4 deals, I got 4 accepted offers in a week when we were in Wisconsin Dells.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
The first 4 I ever got, I was struggling, and all of a sudden we took our girls to Wisconsin Dells, and on the way there, my phone's blown up. I got the laptop out in the car, and and then I hear people say that all the time, and I'm like, wow, that is honestly really true. However that works out for everybody, it seems to be the thing,
It's a funny deal because on TikTok they have Realtor like getting onto an airplane or a train, and all of a sudden, boom, text, boom, boom, boom.
They say if you want to get some business, book a vacation.
Yeah. So, by the way, when he's chaperoning at these things, don't worry that he's got his Glock right here, trying to protect the girls, It's all good,
Yeah.
How old are the girls?
They are 7, 9, 13, and 21.
Wow.
So
very,
the whole,
very,
the
very
whole
cool.
spectrum. Yeah.
That's good. And it's a that's a whole different. We'll do this whole podcast another day about the kids, but I applaud you. I applaud
Thank
your
you.
bride, and you keeping yourself together and keeping the priorities straight is huge.
Yeah. Thank you.
What are your goals, man? Where have you been at? Where do you want to be at in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, as we kind of said, I've been working a lot. My wife's been a stay-at-home mom, but I haven't been able to really book the vacations that I've wanted and the family time. So I just see myself at least being able to take my wife on a trip. We always struggle leaving the kids behind, but, doing an adult trip with my wife and then just being able to, pay for sports for all these kids. It's not a cheap thing. My daughters love gymnastics and volleyball, and you would be surprised when you find out how much that stuff is. So just getting to a place where I can comfortably allow them to enjoy all the childhood things that they would like to enjoy in the pricey suburbs, because we live in the suburbs and in the sports.
Whereabouts do you live?
We live in Apple Valley.
Got it. No, it's a but one thing I've learned about these guys, first of all, Tyler Miller just came back from a cruise.
Yep.
Right? Beautiful.
Yep.
You need time with your wife.
Absolutely.
Right? It's easy to get caught up in the kids.
Yep.
But your bride is the one that's going to put up with you for the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Or longer, but good for you. I applaud you for that. Tell me about, I know TK's a mentor. You got a lot of people within your group. Mm-hmm. What? Give me a couple nuggets that you have learned from being over in this tight knit group.
That's a good question. A couple nuggets I guess I would say is like I said, the working in the industry on a daily basis and just being more and more seasoned with it that's been the biggest thing for me. And then I guess the other one is not overthinking the follow-up. Like when I first sat down with TK to start messaging some people and stuff, he was doing these really short, really chill messages, where I think before it was like, hey, I found this for you and I did this and this, and he's just more like, hey, how's it going? Or I would obsess about how to follow up with my sphere, people that I know, friends, but just to message them, I was kind of overthinking it. And he just said, just chill, man. Just hit him up and say, hey, how's it going? And I'd like to be that person, but, people are kind of more texty nowadays, more standoffish. So I've definitely learned to not overthink it,
I think, I'm part of a group that Drunk on Social.
Yep.
Tristan Amata is an amazing realtor out of LA. And then he's got another mortgage person with him. And what they say is, where your greatest source of your business is? Your phone.
Yeah.
You got all these people that know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
But we all get going in our different deals.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't call them.
Yeah. It's a tough bridge to cross sometimes, because you don't want to just say, hey, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell a house? You want to be a little more genuine about it, I think. I think that's the roadblock, is just thinking that people are going to feel a certain way about it, but most of them really aren't. It's not that big of a deal to just reach out and, hey, let's grab a beer or a coffee.
I think that's the key. They because you're going to be friends with them on Facebook
Yep.
and Instagram and these other avenues, they'll know what you do,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
you're not going to come and be the salesy guy.
Yep.
Just be you. And they like you because of you.
Right.
And they're going to trust you because they already do.
Yep.
And they'll be calling you. But you got to reach out to them.
Right.
So the call reluctancy is something I have.
Yeah.
Jake's been very instrumental with me keeping me accountable. I mean, Jake is my accountability partner, right? In respect of you got to pick up the phone and dial.
And I think another key mindset thing is, when you send a text or a call, or if you, whatever the case may be, and you obsess about what that person's going to say or think, generally they're not thinking about you as much as you think they are. They're thinking about their own life. So even if somebody, even your personal friends, your close friends, if they don't get back to you in a day or two, they're probably, 99% of the time just busy.
Yep.
And you can sit at home or wherever and just obsess about why they're not calling you back, and then they'll just get back to you and say, hey, sorry, I was busy, man. No big deal.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing, even with the social media, the YouTube, getting over the fear of putting stuff online is like, you're not that important. They're not going to be thinking about you that much. They'll see it, but they're not like obsessing like you are.
Half the time they don't even see it,
Yeah,
right?
half the time.
I think that's that consistent and persistent with it.
Yep.
So be persistent and consistent with these videos because they're phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you.
Professionally done. They're done in great communities, St. Louis Park, Edina.
We've done Apple Valley. We did a few other ones, but I since took a YouTube class and learned a few things where I ended up just starting a new channel. So we have a lot more coming, but for now we just have a few out, and we're going to.
But don't be afraid to change, right? I
Right.
mean, that is the key. We at one point were MN Realtors in this group,
Yeah.
right? Jake came up with the brilliant idea of going Realtor Connect because I'm working with realtors across the nation.
Yeah.
And it's just a generic deal that's stuck.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to make mistakes
Right.
because that's how you learn,
Yeah.
right? So are you looking at building a team? Are you looking at right now just working on you?
Yeah. I'm not sure yet. My biggest goal early on here with the TK Homes team was just to get better at myself as a real estate agent, and so I can help people better. And I think I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But I think I'm a ways out. As long as I can provide for my family, I definitely am a people person. So going into the office and being around people gives me energy. And so I don't know how well I would do, if I did a lot more stuff by myself. I definitely like being part of a team.
It's overrated at times,
Yeah.
right? Tom Hollis, who's a great friend of mine here, we started at 200, now we got 1,200,
Yeah.
right? But what that's done is yes, it grows a company, but it pulls you away, pulls you away, pulls you away. I've heard this message over and over with your team, the office environment.
Oh, yeah.
And the comfort, the feeding off one another
Yeah.
is a big deal.
Yep, because every appointment we all experience something different every call. So being on a weekly basis, at least being in that office with people and talking about what you've gone through and what you've learned is huge.
Yeah.
No,
I'm excited to watch you grow into this business. I mean,
I appreciate that.
You do a hell of a job. You come across great.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just perseverance, right?
Yeah.
And you've got your why with the house full of ladies.
Yeah.
And you've got a good personality for it. So I appreciate you coming on as this Realtor of the Week, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the invitation.
Well, it is solid, but again, I learned about you because of what you do on these videos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so that's why I wanted to get you on immediately. And Jeff was great because I'm constantly looking for top-notch realtors to be on the show. I use that term Realtor of the Week, and I mean that very sincerely because it doesn't matter production. Production is one thing, but it's your personality like you have and
Thanks.
the why as to why you do what you do.
Yep.
But it's also the friendships we got, man. So that's what it's all about. So I appreciate you tremendously for being on.
Yeah.
And thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And then for all you guys, thank you for being on. I say this every single week, but I mean it from my heart. Without you guys, we're not a lot. Invite your friends on this thing. You want to be seen. If you want to come on the show, let me know. We've also got Instagram and YouTube. Both are Realtor of the Week. Just Google that and you'll find them. Jake, thank you, brother, for doing this videoing and editing and being my mentor. And we'd show you Jake, but he's, he's telling me to hurry up and shut up. Perfect. I love it. Thank you, guys. Have a good week.